meeting to order. As a preliminary matter, this is Brendan Tedstone, Select Board Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Irfan Nasrullah.
Here.
Brian Herr.
Here.
Mary Jo Lafreniere.
Here.
Amy Ritterbush.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Norman Kamalu.
Here.
Elaine Lazarus.
Here.
Additional speakers this evening may include Sean Mcauliffe, Don McAdam, Barbara Kessler, Zach Sasitsky, Hannah Kruger, Joe Bennett, Steve Slamman, Megan Durad, and John Westerling. If there's anyone attending who would like to speak during public forum of the agenda, you must notify the meeting and host in advance. You may do so by using the raise hand feature of Zoom. This open meeting of the Hopkins Select Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we're complying with the executive orders that suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The executive order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as the public body makes provisions through adequate alternative means to ensure interested members of the public are provided reasonable access to the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law.
May I just interrupt for a moment? I had forgotten to put the motion for executive session in the.
Okay. All right.
So it's the motion that's using the language on the agenda.
Okay. For this meeting, the Select Board is convening by video conference via Zoom webinar is posted on the town's website meeting calendar and the board's agenda identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one of its many channels or platform. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some of its attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. So before we get into the meeting business ground rules, I will entertain a motion to leave this open meeting and go to executive session, as the items on executive session could be detrimental. This is coming off the cuff, Elaine. Could be detrimental to the town bargaining ability. Blah, blah, blah. You want to read the motion and
Mr. Chair, I move that we move to executive session to consider strategy with respect to collective bargaining relative to the DPW, police, fire, and library unions, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board. And also to approve executive session meeting minutes.
Second.
okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
Nasrullah, yes.
Mr. Herr?
Herr, yes.
Lafreniere?
Lafreniere, yes.
Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Headstone, yes. So we will come off of this Zoom meeting and go to Google Meet. So either hang up and go to Google Meet or mute and unvideo yourself. Thanks. So we are back. Bob, are you there? All right, so I'm going to continue. We have a quorum here, so I see that Amy, Mary Jo, and I are all here, so we have a quorum. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will invite board members to provide any comment, question, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in dialogue with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Not every agenda item will feature public comment. For the public forum of the agenda, the chair will work with the meeting host to call on each pre-registered speaker to make their comment. Each speaker must begin by identifying their name and address. Each speaker will have up to 2 minutes for their comment. Please use the raise hand feature of the Zoom now to indicate that you would like to make a comment. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So now let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So I see we have 3 people with their hands up. I believe C. Souza is Colleen Souza. I know that we knew that she was going to come and potentially have a discussion with us. So if we could liven up Colleen's mic, I would appreciate that. And Colleen, hello, Colleen, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good. So in the spirit of consistency, I am going to start the stopwatch. You have 2 minutes.
Great. So my name is Colleen Souza. I live at 6 Wild Road, a resident of Hopkington. I also work for Youth and Family Services. I am a clinical social worker, and that's a town department. And I just want to say that Youth and Family Services is a department that we provide access to comprehensive social services for youth and families. And we work to strengthen and clarify the network of services that act as a safety net for our most vulnerable. So I just am talking in support of the Hopkington Emergency Fund. We see, as of now, currently, Hopkington Youth and Family Services receives weekly requests to help with rent, utilities, food, clothing, many other financial needs that we are unable to meet. We often scramble with available resources to meet that needs that will help the families who are maybe just barely holding things together. With the rising costs in food and utilities and medical care, the safety nets are stretched really thin, and some families, it's difficult for them to recover. So there's some needs that we just cannot meet, especially recently. And often children are caught up in these middle of these situations, and they're already faced with these concerns of the adult world and survival much too soon. So we do collaborate with Project Just Because and Salvation Army and St. Vincent de Paul, but we still have unmet needs. So the Hopkington Emergency Fund would serve to strengthen the family or the safety net for vulnerable families by providing an avenue of unmet needs for residents. And we just want to say that, when a family's dignity is restored through confidential access to help, it improves not only their finances, but it improves their emotional health. And when Hopkington's most vulnerable are well, then all of our residents are well. So it's our hope that you will support the Hopkington Emergency Fund, which will in turn confidentially support your neighbors, your friends, family, when they're going through challenging times.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. I appreciate your time. And you guys are doing a great job. Let's see who's next on our list. So why don't we go ahead and liven up Barbara Kessler's microphone. She seems to be next on the agenda.
Hello.
Hi, Barbara. You are
I
on the clock. You got 2 minutes.
I didn't mean to raise my hand. I thought you were taking attendance. I am on the agenda for later for the committee, tax relief committee. So thank you.
Sounds great. We will circle back to you. Lucia Lopez, you are next on the Hopkins Select Board.
Hi, my name is Lucia Lopez and I live at 4 Marshall Ave. I saw that the agenda has a town manager report on the Main Street Corridor project. And recently I sent 2 emails to Mr. Kamalo and I CC'd the select board. I have some questions and concerns that he has not addressed directly. And several members of the select board have expressed the importance of transparency in town government. So I hope that you can help me to get my questions answered directly. I have to get my kids to bed soon, but when the agenda item comes up, I respectfully request that you ask a yes or no question. And that question is, has the bike path been peer reviewed by someone who has experience designing two-way bike paths? So again, that question is, has the bike path been peer reviewed by someone who has experience designing two-way bike paths? I look forward to hearing the answer to that question, and I thank you for your help and your transparency.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lucia. And so that's it for public forum. So now why don't we go ahead and jump to Sean Mcauliffe, Public Health Director, to give us an update on the town's response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Good afternoon, or good evening.
Hey, Sean.
Thanks for having me. So, where do we start? So, one of the things I started doing today was just to illustrate where we are today and where we've been over the last couple weeks. So today we have a total of 609 cases, plus or minus 41 are active. We're still evaluating whether some of the cases belong in Hopkins or not. We have only had, in this fall season, we've had 2 residents pass with COVID. And I'd say, looking back over the last month and a half, 2 months, what we saw is going into the Christmas holiday, we were averaging about 20 to 30 cases a week. And then coming out of the Christmas holiday, we spiked up to 61 cases that week, then climbed to 68, dropped down to 35, 49, and now we've dropped down to 15 cases. So what this appears to illustrate is the importance of us limiting our exposure, outside of our immediate households. When we do that, and as people have kind of started, focusing on not participating in gatherings, we're starting to see our caseload back to pre-holiday. Actually, today, knock on wood, it's below what we saw coming out of Thanksgiving. I actually was on the phone with the state this morning, and they thought we were, for some reason, they thought we were still a red community, and were pleasantly surprised that we were only red for 1 week, and now we demonstrated that by kind of hunkering down and just following the guidance that's out there. Our positivity rate has consistently dropped week by week, And 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 barring any significant spikes over the next 2 days, I think we're going to be in a much better place than we have, probably a better place than we've been in the last 2 months. So that said, we're improving. We just need to continue to stick with the CDC and DPH guidance. Why do we have to do that? Because we are starting to see these new variants crop up in the United States. The Brazilian and South African have not been documented today. In Massachusetts, we are seeing the British variant. It's present. We know that it's in the Worcester area. We know it's in the Boston area. The state announced that they are increasing their surveillance for all the variants. And the current research suggests that these variants are just, they're easier to contract. So again, what we need to do is just really focus on the basics. So everybody's getting tied up in, is it a riskier variant? Is there a higher mortality? What we really need to do is just, what do we need to do to avoid them? And that is face coverings, distancing, staying home when you're sick, not going to large gatherings, really just minimizing your exposure within the community and outside of the community. And if we're focused on those, with hygiene on the side, we should have better health outcomes in the community. And if and when these variants start appearing throughout this, immediate region, if we're just following those basic practices, I'm hoping that we shouldn't see any spike. But it's really imperative that we stick to the basics, stick to the science we know, and then I think if we do, we'll have better outcomes. The state notified me today that we have several residents are part of these multi-town clusters associated with sports. And again, it's an exposure issue where we're out, we're participating in sports with multiple people for multiple towns. And, when we're participating in these activities, we're putting our, the individual and our families, the schools at risk. It's causing, over the last 2 weeks, we've seen some significant disruptions in the school system from just really a few people participating in sports. One individual played on 4 different teams, exposing members from each one of those teams, and that one individual looks like they put out roughly 50, 60 people in Hopkington, probably another 20 or so in Natick, and a couple other communities. So we just need to start assessing, what our overall exposure, and we have to be prepared for those consequences if we're not willing to follow the guidance and limit our exposures. Vaccines. I was kind of joking with the chief today that this analogy sums up where we are with vaccines. So my 5-year-old told me a couple weeks ago that she had a hash brown patty at school, and anytime I have, an opportunity to expand my daughter's palate or in the menu selection, I jump at it. I went to 3 supermarkets. They were all out of hash browns. The grocery managers assured me that they were still in production. I confirmed that the companies were still active and successful. They had ordered them, but they just weren't receiving them. they weren't aware of any issues in the distribution system. And at the end of the day, they couldn't tell me when they were going to arrive and in what quantity they'd be delivered. That pretty much sums up where we are at with the vaccination process. We know that vaccine is available. We know that the state is receiving vaccines. We know that the health department is an approved provider in the Commonwealth. All of our dispensing plans have been approved. And we had put a plan together based on us, like every other health department, utilizing the Moderna vaccine. It's an easier vaccine to utilize. It's very similar to the management and distribution of a basic flu vaccine. We were told they didn't want lists put together and that we should just proceed as we normally do with flu. That all was upturned on not last Friday, the Friday before, when we were informed that Moderna would probably be limited to our department. Maybe as much as, we might be eligible to get as much as 100 doses a week if it was available. So what we did, we started looking at options, and then they provided us an option at ordering the Pfizer vaccine. We took a few days to assess the utilization of that vaccine because it's a completely different beast. It's got to be stored in ultra cold conditions. It's got to be handled differently. It's got to be thawed. It's got to be mixed. And then instead of coming in 100 dose allotments like Moderna does, it comes in 975 dose allotments. So for us to scale up, we had to what our options were. We had discussions with the DPH. They said that they intended to allot us the Pfizer vaccine with the assumption that we would be partnering with the same communities that we partnered with for the first responders. So that would be the communities of Westboro, Southboro, Northboro, and Ashland. We were able to submit an order, and then that gets us back to the hash brown analogy. We placed the order. We will know Friday. We'll have a better idea if it's going to be delivered and when it's going to be delivered. And in the meantime, we're just putting together plans and building out our strategy with our community partners. So we believe we're in a better place. We don't know that, and I can't speak to whether or not if we get 975 on Monday or Tuesday of next week, if we're going to have 975 the following week. It's a difficult place to be in. I like the knowns. I like digging for information and pushing people to get me answers. And as the chief would say, as hard as we pushed, I'm not getting any any information on the future beyond, actually, all I can tell you is that we got the order in, and I'm hoping for the best. I spoke to several politicians, and I've been on the phone with the DPH again, just trying to get a better idea of what we can do, how we can better position the town. But at the end of the day, we've got a plan together. Using Pfizer, we believe that we can provide vaccine to the community faster than we would if we were using Moderna. And let's see, that said, we are working with the senior housing group to assist them with they're interestingly enough, they're a separate group. I had them submit an order for vaccine today. We should know by Friday if their order is going to be fulfilled. But when it is fulfilled, the intent is that the health department will be partnering with the fire department, and we will distribute vaccine to them. I can tell you that Golden Pond has received their first vaccine, and we were able to facilitate a partnership between a local pharmacy and Fairview to get their initial vaccine completed. So it's been a lot of work to get us where we're at. In the meantime, and I'll kind of end with this, what we see in the state is that they're focusing on developing and standing up these mass vaccination sites. We have them operating at Gillette. We have one at Fenway. There'll be one in Danvers. I think there'll be one up around Lowell. There'll be one out in Springfield. We're going to have a local one. It should be stood up by Valentine's Day. We know that the state is providing vaccine to our pharmacy partners. So they're setting up larger vaccination stations at CVS's and Walgreens throughout the region. And there are roughly, I believe, 18 hospitals that are standing up larger scale, or they're scaling up their existing vaccine capabilities or vaccination capabilities. So for residents that are computer savvy, I suggest that you focus on advocating for yourself. If you have an opportunity to get to one of these mass locations, go. There's a system in place that prevents us from, double dosing you if but we need people to advocate for themselves. Our intent is to take care of the residents that aren't able to get out, get outside of Hopkinton, or who don't have internet access, who are homebound. That's really going to be our focus right now. And then as opportunity presents itself, we'll be acting on that to again bring as much product as we can into the town. And at the end of the day, our goal is really just to it's to really fulfill our mission to improve the health in Hopkinton, and in this case by providing access to medical services and vaccination services. So it's it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and as soon as I know more, I'll be publicizing that. And we're working closely with Norman. We're working with the communication team, and but it's at this point we don't have a lot, that much more to communicate. Any questions?
Amy?
So I have one. Do you have any insight on when the next subsections of phase 2 are going to be rolled out?
No, I mean, the last discussion I heard, or I participated in with the governor, is they had roughly 1 million. I think they had roughly 1 million in the 65 to 75 and over age group to vaccinate. And the state is receiving roughly 180,000 vaccines a week. So it's going to take time to get through that 1 million. And you've got to remember that for every million people that get their initial vaccination, the following month, we got to go back and vaccinate that million people. So, unless we're, increasing our capacity, it's tough to really vaccinate large groups quickly. And that's one of the things that the governor said, is he'd rather build that capacity and not have the vaccine. And then once it does become available, we're not constructing anything new. We can just flood the vaccine into these different outlets and then really get everybody to work. And that's, frankly, we have just over, I think, 1,100 from in the 65 and older to 75 and older group. So if we were on that Moderna track, receiving 100 vaccines a week, it was going to take us 10, 11 weeks. So when we saw the option to pivot and get 200, 300, 400 vaccines in a week, we thought it was the right way to go. And it's, like I said, it was a lot of work to pivot and to make sure that we had the equipment, the processes. We don't have the vaccine in hand. So until I have the vaccine in hand, I don't know what more to say.
So,
Yeah,
just
so-
to be clear, I believe right now we're in phase 2, stage 1, I guess, where it's just people 75 and older. So the 65 to 75 are we there yet, or?
No, we're still in the 75 and older, and we're cleaning up. We're getting the rest of the phase 1 people that have, for one reason or another, been unable to access vaccine.
Thank you.
I have a question too. I've filled out the application and I know other people that have too, that Casey had on Facebook. And I was just wondering, how does that work?
So
Do you notify the people by email or phone or how are they going to be notified that they've been accepted? An appointment.
We have the lists, and with that list, and I should step back. So we have 1,000 out of that 975 dose shipment that we get from from Pfizer. We can really get about 1,100 vaccines out of that. But it has to be stored at ultra cold temperatures, and once we thaw it, we have to realistically, we have to use that product within 5 days. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that before we order it each week, that we have 1,000, or actually we have about 1,200 people in queue that we can notify on a minute's notice, get them scheduled, and get them to the location to receive vaccine. So what we've done is we have all of these email addresses and phone numbers. We will take that and move that into the state system. And then we will send out an email saying, here is the link to sign up to our specific clinic. And then you will have access to this clinic. You'll go in, you'll select your time, and then we will, we'll open up, we'll set up the clinic, we'll open it up, and then, the thought is that these groups that are in our list, they'll get blasted, that link, and it'll allow seniors from Hopkington, Ashland, Southborough, definitely some access to schedule an appointment, and then we are working with North there are a whole bunch of other complexities that are going on that we're working out with Northborough and Westborough, but that's the intent is we have the lists so that we can send you a direct notification, so then you can in turn schedule that.
I had a few questions and Mary Jo's done. Yeah.
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay. So I really appreciate I'm really excited that our numbers are going down. That's great, good news, and appreciate the long explanation, because people, as you know, are very nervous. They want to get the vaccine, and your explanation was really helpful. So I saw the Google Forms on social media too, but I'm wondering how that we're reaching people who don't have a computer or don't go on Facebook. Could those form links be in the weekly COVID update? And if somebody doesn't have a computer or smartphone, can they call the senior center and they could fill the form out for them? Or how? I know some of the towns are requesting volunteers to work at the senior center, not actually physically work there, but to take phone calls and get people's contact info for the vaccine. So I'm hoping that we might do something like that. And like a slide on HCAM, because sometimes people might have a television, they could see those slides about how to get the vaccine, because it is confusing. So it sounds like if you're able to get to Gillette, try to get an appointment at Gillette, and and you're tech savvy. And if you're not, fill out this form and you can get contacted when they have them in town.
So to those questions, I mean, we are working with the senior center. We're identifying the homebound seniors, and we're putting a plan together for them. We are putting together actually, we're finalizing plans on how we can help facilitate enrollment into the clinics without going online. So we're actively working on those, on a daily basis, with an intent that, again, our primary role right now is to target those that are least able to get access to schedule the appointments that are, again, homebound. It's really an equity issue, and we're trying to solve the equity issue because today the state set up a system that isn't equitable. So our job is to fill in to make sure that our residents are being taken care of. And that's why we have a partnership with the housing authority, and we are partnering with Amy, trying to figure out how we can best ensure that we've reached and we've got out to every one of those residents that are in her or on her list. Because frankly, for a 20-year-old, this is a piece of cake. And then you can set up all types of, you can set up multiple computers to help, improve your access. I mean, there are a variety of ways for some tech savvy, resident to get in. So we're trying to create solutions to.
One more question. I understand they're opening Fenway too. So Gillette and Fenway are pretty big places. But how does somebody get an appointment at those places?
You go online to this, if you Google state, so mass COVID-19 vaccine, you'll, on the main page, I believe the top right corner, it says, where can I get vaccinated? And that'll take you to a link that shows where open clinics are in the state, and then it takes you, if you scroll below the map, you can click a button and start searching and scheduling. But it's a bit of a process, and again, it's so we're trying to provide that, if we're asking people to be patient, because we know that we are working on bringing a solution to help the seniors in Hopkinton and the surrounding towns. So if you're not comfortable doing that, that is right now our mission is to provide a solution for all of those seniors that are having difficulties.
Thank you, Sean.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I was gonna say, I think that all sounds good. It's just I'm not seeing that yet. I know people, you're reaching people in the housing authority, but like I have friends and
It
neighbors.
happened
Yeah.
2 hours, 3 hours.
Okay.
ago.
Okay.
And that's the, in one of the calls that I had, I had a call with a state rep, and they've seen what Casey and I are doing and how we're taking every opportunity that exists out there. And we were discussing how communities that don't have people like Casey and I going after things and attacking people and pushing people and to provide us access. If you don't have an advocate in your health department, those communities are potentially being put at a disadvantage. And it's this whole discussion about, at the end of the day, we're looking to service those that are that either are at some disadvantage or, and we're trying to provide equity to those who really are most vulnerable to the virus. And it's, it's been a challenge. And then you throw in, just the unknown of how much and, how much vaccine you're getting. It's been a challenge, and the state is doing everything they can right now to figure out how they can improve upon the system. And at that, and that said, Casey and I are committed to doing everything we can to put, Hopkinton in the best position that we can be in so that we can, so that we can deliver. But all I can say is that, I ask everybody to be patient because it's not a pretty process. And Norman has seen some of, he's been witness to, some of the difficulties we've had. But that said, we're committed, and as soon as we know more, we will get a communication out through the communications team. And yeah.
All right, thanks, Sean. So the townspeople, anybody that has any questions, they can certainly get in touch with you and Casey and go from there. So thanks for the update. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
If I could, just real quick, I just want to say I was able to get my mother vaccinated this morning at Gillette, and using the town website. It was very efficient. Obviously, you need to be a little tech savvy to navigate it, but the process, we were in and out in 30 minutes. It was very well organized and very well done. So
yeah, once you get in, it's easy to complete, but it's just the question is, we did this with the chief. Could his mom, how easy a time did his mom have at trying to go through the process? And we've been running tests like this to figure out what things do we have to account for to make it easier for everybody. And as I said, it's right now we're putting together all of the teams that can help facilitate access to the residents in town.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the consent agenda. The board will consider approving the consent agenda consisting of approval of the minutes of the select board meeting on January 19 and accepting the resignation of Sumitri Chowdhury from the Board of Appeals. Board members, you want to break any of this out? Hearing none, I request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
Ms. Rula, yes.
Mr. Herr?
Yes.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Frenier, yes.
Ms. Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Stone, yes. Employee recognition. At this time, the board will recognize Conservation Administrator Don McAdam, who recently retired after 20 years with the town. During his time with the town, he worked very closely with the Concom, applicants and residents, excelling at customer service. In 2018, he was recognized as the Conservation Administrator of the Year by Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, and he will be missed by everyone he worked with. Even though he is officially retired, he is continuing to serve the town in a part-time capacity until the position is filled. Do we have Mr. McAdam? I do. I see him on the bottom right on mute. I don't see any video of him yet. There he is. So, Mr. Kamalu, would you like to say anything about this fine fellow? I'm definitely going last with this guy. Save the best for last.
Oh, no, that's trouble.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don McAdams, very kind, very committed to the profession, very dedicated to the team, very humble, and in all cases, always committed to being fair and doing the right thing. I can share with the community that I have worked in many different entities all over the world. And fortunately for me, my work has had to do with conservation in one form or the other. And I can say of all professionals that I worked with, wonderful professionals at the global scale, Don had the best customer service I'd ever experienced. There is not a single issue in Hopkinton regarding conservation that was escalated to the town manager's office under Don's ownership. And I can tell you too, in instances where we were working on non-conservation issues that had conservation impacts, every time we brought those kinds of issues to Don's attention, he literally took ownership of that issue through resolution. I also remember vividly one time when I had to attend a court hearing out in Woburn together with Don. Clearly, he made a big difference during those hearings. Certainly, Don, we will miss your beautiful smile, your kindness, your friendship, your professionalism, and who am I going to be chatting with after 7:30 p.m. at Town Hall? May God bless you during your retirement and wishing you and your family all the best. Thank you for everything that you did for the community.
Thank you, Norman.
Board members, Mr. Nasrullah.
Well, I had the pleasure of working with Mr. McAdam on a personal level, just as a homeowner, and trying to figure out what can I do with my backyard. And Mr. McAdam had the best advice ever. Just stay out of the buffer zone. You don't have to deal with me. You don't want to deal with me. But it was actually very practical advice, considering what we were looking at. And, I think that kind of hand-holding is very helpful for for the public when we need to know how can we do something. Don, you're always very approachable. Gave practical advice, and I'm sad to lose you. I think you're definitely an asset to our community, and you have some big shoes to fill.
Thank you, Brian. I'm sorry,
Sweet.
Mr. Herr.
So we have some huge shoes to fill. I would look at it from a slightly different angle. I've never had the pleasure of working with Mr. McAdam directly because I never had to, which is a really good thing. think about Hopkinton over the last 20 years and the amount of growth and expansion and, you know, increase in density and all the challenges we had protecting our natural resources during that whole growth process or that whole period of time. And I moved here in 2000. I got involved in town government in 2001. And other than saying hello to Don and chatting with him, and saying hi in the hallway and things like that, never had to deal with him because he did such a great job. He kept us out of the brawls that so many towns get into when it comes to conservation and development and growth in general. So it's just the fact that I've had to deal with a lot of folks in town over my 20 years of involvement, and I've never had to deal with Don on anything controversial at all. And I just think that's a great testament to the way in which you went about your business, Don, the professional manner in which you conducted yourself, with that big smile on your face that disarmed a lot of people, I'm sure. They're like, oh, they just melted your feet there. It really is just an amazing 20-year period in Hopkinton to have you in that role and have no brawls. I mean, I can't think of one when were we in the newspaper for a conservation commission or conservation agent issue?
I can think of some, but whatever.
I can't think of any that really blew up, and none came to our level. We never had to get into a big mess management situation at all. So I think you did a fabulous job, Don. I'm glad you're here to kind of help us transition. Thank you for that. I hope you have a great retirement. You certainly have earned it. And you've always earned the respect of everyone in Hopkinton, and we appreciate all you've done very much.
Great. Mary Jo. Ms. Ritterbush.
Hi, I just wanted to say both of my boys had the pleasure of working with Don on their Eagle Scout projects, one at College Rock and one on the Hughes Trail. And it was, he made the process very easy and straightforward for them. And, they both had to deal with some difficult situations, but it all worked out, and really appreciate your service. And I wish you a great retirement. I wish we were retiring in a nicer time when you could go travel, but hopefully we'll be better soon.
Great. So I knew Don long before I became a selectman, which has now morphed to a select board member. So Don did such, and a lot of people weren't here back then, but Don did such an amazing job of bridging. We had some Concoms that were brutally, like just not friendly to the townspeople 20 or so years ago, and Don did an unbelievable job of bridging the gap. I know that it had to be 20 years ago that I started where I live now. I had to tear a house down and try to do a subdivision, and I had to go through Concom, and they were not a resident-friendly group. And Don, and people who know me knows that I'm not always the most rational person. And 20 years ago, I was far less rational than I am now. And Don was able to, when I would go down there, there was an environmental scientist named Ellen Shagnon who wasn't always the easiest person to work with. Don did a great job of bridging the gap between hostile, angry me and Ellen, and getting my whole project approved. So as a homeowner and taxpayer and property owner in town, that's, now granted, obviously the boards are far more resident friendly now than they were back then, but Don did such a great job of just doing his job. And all the people, I've known a lot of developers that are here and also that are no longer here, that have nothing but great things to say about Don McAdam. And since I've become on the Board of Selectmen, I've worked with Don on open space and some of my other liaison positions, and he's just been very, very much a constant, and always been a very soothing, rational person to deal with. And the town will miss your presence and the job that you did. Anybody can do a job, but I mean, you really epitomized what it is to take it on as a career. And so the town will certainly miss you. I personally will miss you. I'll miss being able to come in and bust your chops a little bit in the town hall. maybe tell a few jokes at the expense of you and not have you get angry with me. But I wish you nothing but the best. And I've had nothing but great interactions with you. And there are probably 12 people in my life that I can say that I've known for 20 years that I've not had an adverse reaction with. And you're one of them. So best wishes to you. You have earned every second of your retirement. And as much as you're enjoying your retirement, we are going to miss you tenfold. So I wish you nothing but the best. And thank you very much for all that you've done for the town.
I want to thank all of you. Those are just flattering and humbling words. And I just want to thank the town of Harpington for giving me this opportunity. They've been wonderful for me and my family, and the affection's mutual.
That's it, man. We just spent 15 minutes pumping up your tires with one sentence. That's so Don McAdam of you.
That's Don.
Well, again, Don, thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts. We thank you for all that you've done. You've done an awesome job, and you will be missed. And if there's anything that we as a board or me personally can do for you, please don't be afraid to reach out.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You may.
Elaine Lazarus, the assistant town manager, worked very closely with Dawn for over 20 years, and she may have a couple things to say, with your permission.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Dawn and I have worked closely together for all those 20 years, and he was really going to be missed. And I've enjoyed every moment working with Dawn and helping, further customer service with residents, and just, making all the developments we worked on together go seamlessly. And really enjoyed working together, and we're really going to miss you. And I hope you come back and visit.
Thanks, Elaine. Yeah, I'm going to miss the third floor, definitely. And the whole town hall, and all the departments, We had a great crew. It's awesome.
Yeah, we'll miss you.
Well, come back and consult, will you?
So Don, you've got clout in town hall when Elaine Lazarus speaks up in a public meeting.
Yep.
That is clout right there, man. That is clout.
I was going to say the same thing, but my etiquette and common sense had me not do that. But I'm glad we have you. Awesome, Don. Best wishes, buddy. Take care.
Yeah.
Now that Don's gone, we can start eliminating the buffer zones. Okay, so we are at a board committee appointment. The board will consider making an appointment to the Tax Relief Committee, and an application from Barbara Kessler has been received. There's one vacancy and one applicant. I believe Barbara is here, so if we have any questions for Barbara, we can ask them. We generally, if there's, does any board members have a question for Barbara?
I do not.
Nope. Good. This was an easy one for you, Barbara. So I will request a motion to appoint Barbara Kessler to the Tax Relief Committee, a term expiring June 30, 2023.
So moved.
I'd like a second. There you go.
Second. There you go.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
Nasrullah, yes.
Mr. Herr?
Herr, yes.
Ms. Lafreniere, I believe we lost Ms. Lafreniere. Should be back. Ms. Ritterbusch?
Ritterbusch, yes.
And Ted Stone, yes. Welcome aboard, Barbara.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity. Happy to serve.
Good, good.
Great,
Hopkins Emergency Fund. Zach Sasitsky and Hannah Kruger are present to talk about the Hopkins Emergency Fund. Mr. Sasitsky and Ms. Kruger, please.
Oh, and Mary Jo's back. You can get her.
Okay.
Back in.
Hi, thank you.
Yep.
So my name is Zach Sasitsky, and I'm here as a representative from the Hopkins Emergency Fund, which is a newly founded 501c3 nonprofit that aims to provide temporary emergency financial assistance to residents of Hopkinton through collaboration with existing local human service organizations. I'm here with Hannah Kruger, who is a co-director of the fund, and together we're going to tell you a little bit about who we are, discuss our origins, where we stand now, and where we are headed. So again, my name is Zach, and I'm a 2018 graduate of Hopkins High School. When I came home from school due to the pandemic last spring, I was looking for ways to help the local community, and I was put in contact with Dawn Alcott-Miller, Colleen Souza, who we heard from earlier, and Amy Beck at Hopkinton Youth and Family Services and the Hopkinton Senior Center. The four of us met and discussed the continued need in Hopkinton for an emergency fund that would serve as a financial backstop to some of the agencies that exist in town, helping people in emergency situations from falling through the cracks. I went out searching for people to join me and was lucky enough to find Hannah, a 2012 graduate of HHS, who was willing to co-lead the effort with me. We have now built a team of 10 invested individuals, filed for nonprofit status, and worked with our partners to build an anonymous referral system that will allow us to carry out our mission. At this point in time, we are preparing for a launch a publicity and fundraising campaign with the hope of activating the fund for public use by May. And I'm now going to pass it along Hannah, who will tell you a little bit more about who we are.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. As Zach said, my name is Hannah Kruger. I'm a 2012 graduate of Hopkinton High School. And so I'm just going to give you a little overview of the Hopkinton Emergency Fund. So as Zach said, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our mission is to provide emergency financial support to residents of Hopkinton through collaboration with local existing human service organizations. So as residents of Hopkinton, we are very fortunate to have several human service organizations at our disposal to help with the needs of food, clothing, and other necessities. However, these organizations do have limited funding to help support in financial emergency situations. So the goal of our fund is to provide a financial safety net for anyone whose needs may not be able to be met by the existing human service organizations. We aim to provide these services through close collaborations with these existing organizations. For example, if a service organization is unable to provide an individual with financial assistance, they will submit a referral form to us that explains both the situation and the amount requested. And then our grant committee will meet to review the application, and if accepted, we'll write a check directly to the business vendor who is providing the service for the person, and this way we're able to keep it anonymous. We are aware now more than ever that emergency financial situations can happen to anyone at any time. And so we really envision a united Hopkinton community that recognizes its responsibility to support our neighbors when they're faced with emergencies by providing financial assistance to meet their basic needs.
Thank you, Hannah. And thank you, Colleen, earlier, if you're still here, for your public statement of support. So our goal for tonight is just to let you know who we are and ask for your moral support as we begin outreach to the community. Thank you again so much for allowing us to speak tonight, and we are happy to answer any questions at this time.
Great, thanks, Zach, and thanks, Hannah. Mr. Nasrullah, any questions?
Just a couple. First, I want to say thank you for taking this on. This seems like a pretty major project to be spearheading. I'm sure the people in need certainly will benefit from it. What is your primary source of funding?
Yeah, so that's the one missing piece that we have right now, and we are planning to again launch a fundraising campaign within the next few weeks. We're hoping for individual donors as our primary source, members of the community. And we're going to reach out to some local businesses as well. So hopefully we can gain some funding through that avenue as well.
Well, that's fantastic. Like I said, this is sounds like a very altruistic mission to help those in need, especially during this pandemic. And I commend you. Thank you. You're definitely a benefit to our town.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Herr.
A couple of things. One, you guys obviously are doing HHS proud by both of you as graduates stepping forward and trying to help in the community. Not an easy task that you're taking on, but I think a very worthwhile one. There are gaps in the services that can be provided from the public side, and whenever nonprofits can step in and help, I think it's a great marriage. So thank you for doing that. You do make our high school proud, and I'm sure you make your parents very proud too. I know one person's mom out there, and I'm sure she's smiling right now. So thank you both, and keep coming back. Keep us posted on how it's going, and maybe we can find ways that we can help further. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Mary Jo, you're on mute. You're still on mute. Ms. Ritterbusch.
So I do think there's definitely a need for this in town, and I really appreciate you guys stepping up, and I hope you can, get some donations together so you can help people. There's definitely a need right now, and I'm sure, recessions happen on a cyclical basis, so there definitely will be a need in the future too. So thank you very much.
I'd like to circle back to Mary Jo. She's
Yeah.
These are the issues that she likes to talk about, and
I just think it's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful program, and I wish you guys all the luck in the world with it. It's
great.
Very needed. Thank you.
Thanks. Yep, my sentiments are echoed by from all these other board members. So thank you guys and girls, and like Mr. Hurst said, please keep us posted if there's anything that we can do to help out. We will do everything in our power to advance the cause. Anytime that we're doing something to better Hopkinton, that's our entire basis of being here. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yep. All right, moving on to the capital and budget hearings. Tonight, the board will begin a series of meetings with town departments to hear about their operating budget and capital requests. We will be hearing from the police department, fire department, communications department, and the Department of Public Works. Mr. Kamala, do you want to take this?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. John Westerling will go first.
Okay. John is on mute. No presentation means no increase to the budget. I like it.
Yeah.
John, if you can hear us, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself, that would be great. Mr. Kamala, do you have a plan B?
Yeah, we'll switch to plan B. We'll have the police chief, Joe Bennett, go first.
Great. Hi, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
The floor is yours.
All right, I'm going to dive right into it. This is my first time, so bear with me. Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak about the Hopkinton Police Department fiscal year 2022 budget. I want to start by stating that I'm confident that the proposed budget provides the necessary funding to accomplish our goals, in addition to providing the highest level of service to the community. This budget was built from the bottom up, beginning with our most valuable asset, our personnel, which represent 94% of the entire budget. Everything we do at the Hopkinton Police Department is done through the lens of our 5-year strategic plan. In the process of developing our 5-year strategic plan, we solicited feedback from the community, town departments, boards, and committees. And through those efforts, we have learned and reaffirmed a great deal. We have reaffirmed that we are valued and trusted by the community, and our customer satisfaction is very high. We also learned that the community is looking forward to the police department continuing its efforts and desires more engagement between the police department and individual community members. The strategic planning process also helped us to define our mission, vision, and values. For our mission, the members of the Hopkinton Police Department will serve as partners with our citizens to maintain a safe and peaceful community, committing ourselves to the preservation of life, protection of property, safeguarding of individual liberties, and accomplishing this with integrity and professionalism. For our vision, Through an innovative action and ongoing performance improvement, we are committed to providing excellence in public service, continuing to strengthen our relationships within the community, and building upon the public trust, while striving to maintain our excellence through employee development, continuous training, and quality leadership. With regards to our values, we, as members of the Hopkins Police Department, are responsible for protecting the lives and property. We serve with professional pride, and we want the inhabitants of the town of Hopkinton to share in this pride. The law enforcement profession is difficult and demands dedication far beyond most other professions. For this reason, we ascribe to the following traits and values to be the foundation of the commitment to public service, safety, and security: integrity, professionalism, advocacy and empathy, efficiency, and pride. Within our strategic plan, we've identified 8 key goals. Number 1, addressing traffic. As we all know, traffic has always been an issue in the community. Attention to youth, community interaction and relationship building, consistent and constitutional crime prevention, community service-oriented attention to the topics including opioid abuse, vaping, and mental health issues, sustaining staffing to keep pace with the growth, succession planning and cross-training, and protecting the health and wellness of our personnel. Since I took office in April, we've been working towards these goals. These are difficult times that offer unique challenges. However, we are committed to finding innovative ways to succeed in these goals. Specifically, this year, we have identified 3 of the goals as a priority. They are as follows: community interaction and relationship building to sustain legitimacy, because we recognize the importance of educating the public on who we are and what we do. Education on programs we offer, including our jail diversion program, is critical. Transparency is also critical to enhance the public trust. The next goal, consistent with the constitutional crime prevention in a fair and impartial manner while practicing procedural justice. We are proud of the work the officers do every day. It's the product of rigorous selection and training, as well as creating a true culture of professionalism driven by our core values of integrity, professionalism, advocacy and empathy, efficiency and pride. We will continue in all those aspects, in all those important aspects. And third of the 3 priorities is protecting the health and wellness of our personnel through awareness and professional collaboration. It has been stated that every level that the personnel of each department in our community are the best asset, and the police department is heavily invested in providing them a first-class workplace, excellent training, and outstanding support from the entire community. Your public safety staff have not missed a beat since the pandemic began. They are out in the community each and every day, surrounded by an invisible enemy. This takes an physical and emotional toll. Some have contracted the disease and thankfully survived. They do, however, report that recovery is very slow and the long-lasting or permanent impacts are unknown. Some of you may be aware that suicide among members of law enforcement was up 33% in 2019, according to the group Blue Help 228. Blue Help. 228 present and former law enforcement officers took their lives. It is tragic and saddening to think that some of those deaths could have been avoided through intervention. As we move forward, the Hopkins Police Department will continue to make service to the community our primary objective. We will continue to drive all 8 goals forward with laser focus. We will place special emphasis on the 3 goals that have been determined to be a priority, and we will accomplish this through collaboration, training, transparency, and accountability. Now, shifting to capital, with regards to our capital request, we're requesting 3 cars this year. We are behind in our replacement schedule by 1 year, and the miles and hours on the cruisers keep coming. The purchase of 3 cruisers is absolutely necessary if we're not going to fall behind and incur increased cost to repair and maintain the fleet as the cruisers fall out of warranty. I want to thank you again for this opportunity and your time, and welcome any of your questions.
Thank you, Chief. Good job for your first run at it. Nicely done. Mr. Nasrullah, any questions for the chief?
Yeah, just a couple little ones. So the capital project that you're looking for is just the cruisers.
Yes.
Okay. I recall there was a project for redoing the floor. Has that already been completed?
Yes, that has been completed.
Okay, excellent. That is all.
Mr. Herr.
Mr. Kamalo, I assume the cruisers are pay-as-you-go?
As the funding source, yes.
Have we considered, I'm sure you have, but have we considered, and not just kind of a general question, not so much just about cruisers, but in general, some of the pay-as-you-go, going out and getting a bond or getting a note or whatever because the money's so cheap right now? I mean, it's literally pennies on the dollar. Would that help us in other areas?
At a general level, if you think back to the budget presentation, we do have a component of the budget that addresses that suggestion or follows that suggestion. However, we did not include cruisers in that grouping.
Okay. How many do you need, Chief?
That's a big question. I'm asking for 3.
How many we do last year?
0.
How about the year before?
3.
3?
Through the chair.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
All right, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks. Good job, Chief.
Mary Jo.
I think it's a nice job, good presentation. And I think you guys are just doing a great job. I'm very proud of our police department. So thanks for the information.
Through the chair. Thank you.
Yep. Ms. Ritterbusch.
I had the same questions as Mr. Herr about the police cruisers. It sounds like we skipped them last year, but now they're still needed or even more so. Is there a roof replacement as well that is in the budget too? That's probably
Correct, yes, there is.
okay. And then I think my only question would be, you mentioned attention to youth issues, opioids, vaping, and mental health. Are there budget requests to help with that this year? Any initiatives?
So through the chair, the work that we do on those would only encompass the staff and anticipated overtime.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Chief, thanks for your presentation. It was very well done. I liked how you touched on the law enforcement, the suicide rate. As you know, I worked in the prison for a few years, more than a few years. I know 1 year at one of the prisons I worked at, there were 5 corrections officers that committed suicide on duty. So I was part of 2 of those as part of the response team. So it's a very stressful and hectic occupation, even when people support you all the time. And this time, you know, society right now does not necessarily, as a rule, support the police departments and what they do. I don't feel that that is the flavor of Hopkinton. I think that Hopkinton certainly does support and appreciate the work that you do. So we appreciate all that you do. So that does not mean that we are going to vote to give you 3 cruisers. So, but thank you for the presentation, and we look forward to working with you a little bit more closely in the next month or 2.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Kamalo.
John Westerling.
There he is.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to you and to the members of the Select Board. The Hopkinton DPW submitted its FY22 budget proposal that was consistent with the criteria established by the Select Board and the Town Manager. Our proposed budget allows us to continue to provide the services and maintain the infrastructure that are essential to the welfare and quality of life for this community. I offer the following highlights of the DPW's FY22 budget. We are sustaining the critical public works services at FY21 levels in the highway, water, and sewer divisions. The highway budget increases by 2.5%. The water budget increases by 0.6%, and the sewer budget decreases by 6.5%. So credit goes to the managers, Eric Hardy and Michael Manser, for looking at their budgets and coming in at those very low rates. We are matching the FY21 level of investment in our pavement management plan by conducting $1.16 million of improvements in our roadway network with general funds that are combined with Chapter 90 funds. This work will be complemented by the Main Street Corridor project's full depth reclamation over the next 2 years. In response to public requests, we will be making major progress on cleaning up the town's urban forest with a budget of $250,000 in the tree removal budget, which is up from $150,000 this year. We are satisfying our solid waste and recycling contract increases through a 2.1% budget increase. We are improving the safety and efficiency of our cemetery and road excavations by asking to add a mini excavator to our fleet. We are replacing capital equipment that is unsafe or has reached a serviceable life by replacing a 28-year-old chipper that is not equipped with modern safety features, an 8-year-old highway truck that has 110,000 miles on it, and a 13-year-old sewer truck that has 100,000 miles on it. We are replacing critical infrastructure that is at risk by replacing the water main that services Woody Island. We are protecting the quality of our water supply by cleaning the Alprilla Farm wells and installing a chlorine injection system at the Grove Street tanks. We are ensuring that our sewer system is watertight by searching for any inflow or infiltration. We are taking the necessary steps towards the development of the Pratt Farm well with funds for the engineering of the next regulatory approval process. And finally, we are supporting the Parks and Recreation Department with the management of their facilities through a budget of $105,000. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time to share these highlights of the DPW budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the Select Board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Westling. That was a nice presentation. Mr. Nasser.
Thank you, Mr. Westling. That was an excellent presentation. So did I hear you correctly that we have the tree management moving forward for this following fiscal year?
Through the chair, that's correct. We have reached out to a tree company that is on the state bid list, so we don't have to go through the procurement process. And we actually get to see one of their pieces of equipment. What we'll be doing is riding down the road with a four-wheel, how do I describe this? It's a four-wheel vehicle that has a long boom arm on it. And on the end of that boom arm, it has a grapple, and it also has a chainsaw. So they'll be able to move down the roadway. And according to their history in surrounding communities, they're able to take down 30 to 50 trees a day at a cost of around $10,000. To put that in perspective, we remove trees now at $1,000 or $1,500 per tree. So we are looking forward to really making an impact on the dead trees across town.
Wow, that's excellent. I just want to say, on a day like today, when I needed to get out early and the roads were plowed and things were functioning, it's all a credit to the DPW, and I thank you for all you're doing. That's all I have for now.
Through the chair, if I may respond, all the credit for that goes to the members of the highway and water and sewer departments that were, the management of that storm was handled by Mike Manser. They were out for 31 hours straight, ensuring that the roads were clear and safe. And at the end of their shift today, the roads were down to black pavement. So great job all around by the DPW.
Yep. Mr. Herr.
I don't have any specific questions at this time. I think as we go down the budget path, we may have to revisit a couple of things, but John, very thorough as always. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Mary Jo.
I just want to get it straight. Now, when you ask for equipment, you want it, the mini excavator, the chipper, the truck, and the sewer truck.
That is correct.
That's the equipment list. Okay, thank you. And give Mike my best and tell him thank you. Great job today on the snow removal.
I shall. Thank you very much.
Ms. Ritterbusch.
I'm not sure. Let's see. I think the only question I had is, I'm sure this is coming on the horizon. We replaced one of the Grove Street water tanks a few years ago, much bigger capacity one, and yet the other one is very, very old too. Are we going to be replacing the other tank down the line? But not this year, I'm sure. But
Through the chair, that is absolutely correct. We are looking to replace that with a similarly sized one. We are going to be coming forth with a proposal, not for this year's town meeting, but certainly for next year's town meeting.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. And John, yep, excellent job today. I did happen to, I was up for early this morning, getting my driveway done, driving through Hopkins, driving through Southborough, Ashland, Framingham. Again, as usual, our roads were far superior in snow removal to the other towns. So not surprisingly, but not to be redundant, I seem to always bring that up when I talk to you that the guys do a great job. And it's important to, like you said, it's important for everyone to know it's not just the highway guys, it's the water and sewer, and everybody works very, very well as a team. And I know that I always think, when I drive by Saddle Hill Road, I think of Mike Fredette and his route. And, today I thought about him too, like driving the old S8 and W8 and pushing back and all the stories that we've had. And he was a tough loss this year. So, but great job. And
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your kind words. And I always love hearing that Hopkinton's roads look better than the surrounding community. So it's greatly appreciated. I will pass that on.
Yep. Sounds good. Great. Thank you. Mr. Kamalu, if you would call in that other chief.
Perhaps before we call Chief Slayman, let's call Hopkinton's your own communications director, Megan Dirad.
All right. Well, I'd love to talk to Megan. Come on in, Megan.
Me too.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this year for calendar 21 and fiscal 22, some strategic direction we'd like to take the communications department. Two main priorities for the year: our new public safety software replacement program we're going through, as well as our public safety radio infrastructure. In regards to the software, we have been about a year now into a replacement program for the current software we've had for years that's getting outdated. We were essentially told it was reaching end of life and would no longer be supported, so we had to reach out, and that's all been in the works for many years now, and we're getting close to actually implementation and going live. So it's an exciting time, but it's still going to take a lot of work. Right now, where Josh and I have been doing a lot of building in the background, working with our project manager, getting everything ready. We're currently just started getting deep into end user training for everybody throughout the police and fire departments, and hoping all goes well about beginning of April to go live with our new software. So of course, exciting but nerve-wracking time to make sure everything goes well, make sure we can navigate around pretty well and pay attention to what kind of little things need our attention, determining how are we going to do what we used to do in our former softwares and whatnot. So a lot still on the horizon with that, but again, it's exciting to look forward to. And then in regards to our radio infrastructure, essentially last year when I took over the communications department and had the task of truly making it its own independent department, one big piece that came with that is the radio infrastructure. Communications, radio, kind of all goes together. So over this past year, we've discussed it with all public safety departments, police, fire, DPW, and whatnot. And it's come to light that our infrastructure needs some serious attention. We did just recently have an issue with one component on the police side. That was kind of an eye-opening experience. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, I suppose you could say. But it was certainly an eye-opener that we really need to dive deeper into this and see where we're at, map out our current systems, see what we have for age of our equipment, what needs to be replaced, and start developing a replacement plan. Since some of our main pieces of that equipment are at least 30 years old, if maybe not a little more. So I'd rather take care of it before really big issues come up and we have some responder safety issues or anything like that. So that'll be on the forefront for this year as well. And then in regards to the budget submission that has been submitted, personnel increases, contractual increases, wage adjustments, merit increases that are all essentially already put there for me that we need to account for, as well as an attempt to offset some of our overtime expenses over the last several years. Looking at the last, I believe it was 5 years or so, I looked at, there was significant overages to overtime line items. So I'm trying to work to offset that a little bit, as well as having other offsets with some grant funding that hopefully can help us out too. The state 911 department, we're lucky to have a couple good grants from them. We do have them secured for fiscal 21, and of course hope that we continue to receive them going forward, but of course you never know. And then as far as our expenses, part of what caused a bit of an increase was that radio infrastructure planning and taking on the purchasing, installation, repairs, anything like that throughout our system, as well as, again, trying to come up with preventative maintenance programs and look into our system to see where we need to give it attention going forward. And then as well as absorbing some other costs that were previously handled by other departments. For an example, the pre-employment screening costs formerly were handled by the HR department, but we are going to now start absorbing those for our potential new employees. As I mentioned, potential offsets, we do have hopefully close to probably a total of about $50,000 in grant funding, hopefully available for fiscal 22 from the state 911 department. And that money can be used to offset salaries. We can use it for training costs so that the dispatchers can keep their certifications that they are required to have by state law. As well as it could potentially go into the radio infrastructure costs. I do have to look into that a little bit, but there's other improvements around the dispatch center that it can be used for and things like that. So it's got a little bit of room to spread it out a little bit, which is nice. And that's for the most part the summary. I am still trying to build this department as its own and learning along the way. So obviously I welcome any questions any of you guys have.
Thanks, Megan. That was a pretty good report. Appreciate that. Let's see. So Mr. Nasrullah.
I want to say thank you, Megan. It was an excellent presentation. I don't have a lot of questions right now. I'm sure as we get deeper into the process, I may, but nothing for now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, same thing. Mr. Herr.
Thank you, Megan. You're obviously on the path now to get that department up and running. Good job, good for you. How many people are on the team today?
Right now we have 8 full-time dispatchers, and I've got 5 per diem dispatchers with 2 more that'll be coming in shortly.
That's a significant number of people. I didn't know there were that many dispatchers on the team.
There are.
Okay, great. Thank you for the information. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mary Jo.
Well, I just want to congratulate Megan. I think she's doing a terrific job. I think that this communications department is much needed, and I really hope that she makes the April 1st deadline. That could be very, very helpful to everybody. And thanks for the presentation. It was great.
Thank you.
Ms. Ritterbusch.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I'm really glad that you're looking into replacement programs for your equipment. It's, you certainly wouldn't want to have an emergency stuff not work. So, and I know that end of life thing, we have a couple software systems where I work too that are going to end of life this year because of Windows 7 going away, and we gotta get those replaced, get used to the new systems. And good luck with all the training for everybody and your staff.
Thank you.
Megan, I appreciate your time coming here. In the scope of public safety, I know that the dispatchers and communications people are sometimes lost on they don't get the glory that the police and the fire do, but also they don't get the criticism that the police and fire do either. You guys are, it's a very interesting, having been around the police and fire dispatch for the last, I don't know, 33 years. Where you've come from to where you are is definitely just a massive step up, and you've been around, well, let's say for a couple of years. I won't say how long, but for a couple of years. So I'm glad to see that you're at the helm. I think that you'll do a good job steering it and managing what you need, need versus want, and making sure that you guys are at the level of professionalism that the town expects. So keep up doing the good work. This is one of those calls where it's, the Zoom meetings where it's nice because I can say all nice things. Once we start doing the budget stuff, then we won't be so friendly, but it's all right. We'll still be friends at the end.
Thank you. Thank you for the appreciation for the team. You're right. They are often overlooked, and I appreciate when they get recognized. And I'd also let you know I've spent more than half my life at the police station. I'll just leave it at that.
Which is like 10 and a half years?
Close. 11.
Yep. All right. Awesome. Thanks. Mr. Kamalu.
And finally, Chief Stephen Slayman and board members, you have the opportunity to ask any COVID-related questions that you couldn't ask Sean.
I think we asked Sean all the questions that we need to ask. Chief Slayman, it's on you. There he is. There he is.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for the chance to present. Just a point of personal privilege. If I could just say for Don McAdams, I've really enjoyed working with him. You guys all covered it greatly, and truly the comfort level that he gave me as a new department head coming in, and the coaching and his work on the Hopkins Emergency Management Group. He may not have had a big role. He was there every single time, every single meeting, totally part of the team, and it just makes our whole group work better. So thank you for that. All right, if I can go into my presentation, sir. I'm gonna flip one little thing a bit. I wanna just bring to light that we've had our 4 grant firefighters working for us for a full year now. And I kind of presented to Norman right in the beginning. We couldn't have timed that grant any better. They all came in right as COVID started to hit us. They went live and have been working nonstop. And the results are interesting. I've talked to you all in some form or another, or you've seen it in my reports, how I use effective response force as kind of my last measure to see how we're doing with the resources that I request from you. And this year was a dramatic drop in the number of calls that we didn't have resources for. And that's been something I've been working on for 5 years. So we literally went from, before we switched over to dispatch and what Megan is doing now, that big move to get dispatchers over across the street and our firefighters onto the response, the added staff. We went from half of the time not having adequate resources to this year. The transition was, we had 304 calls last year with an inadequate resources. This year was 103. That's a dramatic drop. I've never seen anything like it. And that's the positive side of all that is what you probably want to hear is, we're doing over 2,000 calls with the desired amount of resources. And that's taken us a long time to get there. And that's the result of the the support I've gotten from the community and from you. So I thank you. I wanted to, we're always trying to find results, and that's the best result I've ever seen since I've been on the department. All right. If I could transition into our budget goals, is to deliver quality service to our changing community in a safe, effective, and efficient manner at a reasonable cost. To improve delivery of effective response force, which means an improvement in the number of emergency responders we successfully respond to with the minimum number of personnel required to address the mission. Third is to focus on service delivery, employee development, community engagement. And I highlighted, these are all what I had last year, but I highlighted this last piece was emergency management, community preparedness, and risk reduction. I'm not asking for more personnel this year. I am trying to focus the personnel I have and what they do within their capacity. And that's really been the goal of this budget. And then finally, preparing for the community's additional growth, change in diversity, and the impact of opiates, marijuana legislation, and behavioral health and wellness within our community. And again, that's a lot of that has been in our community risk reduction discussions we've had for the last few years. My work with Chief Bennett and Youth and Family Services, just to see where else we can help the community so that the request for service isn't always a 911 call. That's a big goal for us. So to transition into the numbers, for personnel, I'm gonna have the same number that I had last year. That's 2 chief officers, 31 firefighters, 3 call firefighters, 1 administrative manager. The 4 primary responsibilities and duties handled by these personnel are putting out fires, rescuing and caring for the sick and injured, working to reduce future risk, and investing in investigating the sources of risk. In that budget, you will see that there's a 5.4% increase. The increase is a 3-year contract that was settled and brought in this year, which was 6.25, I believe was the number. There was a couple of retirees, which actually saved us some money. So that drove down the cost of the budget when our new hires are cheaper. Going into overtime, that is a cut, which is helping the overall number. Something that I rarely have said to this board, so I expect to see a couple of smiles there when I say a cut in overtime. I'm able to do that because we've hired more paramedics, which I have enough staff to cover the ambulances. It helps us get the balance of effective response service. It's been a long time. We've been now 14 years transitioned into our paramedic service, and the number of paramedics keeps going up, and that really helps us staff the ambulances. So that's a short story on that. And then finally, my expenses. My expenses have always been challenging. Modern technology with the trucks that I do is the big thing. A lot of computer systems, there's a lot of emissions controls. They all cost money. I'm spending $15,000 in a vehicle each year just to keep it in service. We became an OSHA compliant industry this year. So that kind of drove it a little more, that everything's got to be perfectly run and inspected and accounted for. So there's some cost to that. And that's why you would see that type of an increase. And overall, what that does to the budget is brings us at a 5.1% budget increase. There's 2 capital items I could touch on. I'm requesting a new ambulance this year. The ambulance A1 that I have has been wonderful. When we got that ambulance, that was the first one that came with a power stretcher and a power lift system, which was amazing. I can tell you my back is never happy, and that's because of 25 years of manually lifting stretchers. And now it's mostly done hydraulically, and or by battery power driving hydraulics. And that's really a wonderful investment. It was such a good investment when we got this ambulance. We ran it first out for 4 straight years until we got a second ambulance that had the same piece. So it's a good ambulance. I'm going to see if I can keep it because there's not much buyback. And that's why you see the full cost presented to you. The second piece is you saw last year is the refurbishment of engine 4. It's a piece of equipment I really like. It's got a lot of rust that's gone into the frame rails, but the manufacturer feels like he can save it. The beauty of saving it at this price, I think we can get another 6 to 8 years out of it versus asking for $680,000. And that gives me the opportunity to kind of finish what the other fire station would look like and how the next piece of equipment that might go in there would look. This piece of equipment is the only one that fits in Station 2, which makes it very valuable right now while Station 2 is in service. So I'd like to refurb it over the summer. And then should we need Station 2 some more, I hope not, that it can fit in Station 2 without buying a new piece of equipment that has to be designed to do that. I want the next piece of equipment to be designed for whatever the future of Hopkinton is. I believe that covers my presentation. Thank you.
Wonderful job, Chief, as always. Nice job. I will open it up to the board. Mr. Nasrullah.
Thank you, Chief. I think wonderful presentation, and I can't stress enough that this past year must have been incredibly challenging for you, and it seems as though your department's been able to handle it really well. So kudos to you. As far as the budget goes, I like the sound of what I'm hearing. That refurbishing as opposed to buying new trucks is fantastic. So as we delve deeper into this, I'm sure I'll have more questions. But at this point, sounds like we're on the right track.
Thank you,
Mr. Herr.
Good job, Chief. I don't have any specific questions to Mr. Nesrullah's point. I'm sure we'll have some more conversations as we go down the path. But, I think you're doing a great job there. The entire team, I think, does excellent work. And we're lucky to have everybody that you have in that building keeping us safe. Please let them know that. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I'm a lucky chief. I got a good crew.
A pretty good board behind you, too. Ms. Lafreniere. Oh, you're on mute, Mary Jo. You're on mute, Mary Jo.
Okay, here we go.
There you go. There you go.
No, I just wanted to say I'm glad the full grant firefighters have worked out so well with COVID and everything. And I think you guys are doing a great job at this really difficult time. And I'm kind of not surprised you need another ambulance. That's we're getting a lot of seniors in this town. So thank you very much. Good presentation, Chief.
Appreciate it.
Ms. Ritterbusch.
Thanks. I think my only questions were the ambulance and the refurbishment. Those are pay-as-you-go capital items. Is that right?
No.
No.
The refurbishment, I believe, saw the ambulance. We're going to use a combination of funding sources, including perhaps dipping into the ambulance fund.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. What was that number you gave us? The 300 and something calls that you, not this year, but last year?
Yeah, there was 304 calls last year. It was 358 in 2018 that we didn't have an effective response force ready. So that means we might have went to a medical with 1, 2, 3 people versus 2 paramedics and 2 EMTs, which is a national standard.
So I find that number absolutely amazing. Cutting back to 1989, where we had 300 calls. If we hit 300 calls for the year, for everything, that was a busy year. It's amazing how much the town has grown and how our departments, you, the police, all the other departments have morphed to embrace the growth and to kind of proactively make sure that we're safe and we're doing a great job. Interesting when you talk about the refurbishment of Engine 4. My vice chair and I had a little back and forth this week. with General Motors' announcement that they're going to stop the internal combustion engine in 15 years. And I told them how unexcited I am to have a Tesla fire truck idling at a scene for 4 hours. And we went back and forth on that. But everything you're doing is coming up aces. I have had many opportunities in the community as I come across some of these new guys and girls to kind of pick their brains. I would think that most of them don't know who I am, and everything is just a very positive. You know, they're happy to work here. We're happy to have them, and they're good ambassadors for your department. So you and Deputy Chief Miller and your lieutenants and FPOs and all these people, everybody's doing a wonderful job, and you seem to have your team pulling in one direction, which is kudos to you.
Thank you, sir.
10-4. Over. All right, we're all set there. That's enough of the hug fest. Mr. Kamalu, the annual town meeting.
Yes. What we were looking for today is at least for the board to have brief discussion on 4 of the articles that you're moving forward at the annual town meeting. And with your permission, I'll let Elaine introduce those 4 articles.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Is the trench safety officer bylaw, which was initially proposed for last spring, but didn't go forward. And I did notice this evening that we have 2 versions of it, and the one in the packet I think is something to it. But the upshot is that the DPW director is currently serving as the trench safety officer, and that would continue. It'd be codified in the bylaw. And Jackie's Law, which was passed a few years ago. So that makes the town in compliance with.
I don't know if that's Elaine's email, internet connection or mine.
Yeah, I think she's got to lose her video. It would probably help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their current practice of the way that they issue street opening permits, puts it in the bylaw and makes it, has greater transparency and sets forth the way that it's administered so that everybody can see how that works. And the third one is the Obstructing Public Streets and Sidewalks bylaw, which the change was initiated by a citizen who was interested in covering things that isn't snow being deposited in the road, such as leaves and debris and so forth. And so this bylaw was developed to address that. And then town council noted that we need to clarify and coordinate the language used here with a few of the associated bylaws. So there's some housekeeping and clarification involved in this one as well. And then the fourth is the dog licensing bylaw, which just brings the town's penalty for unlicensed dogs in line with what the state requires in the statute. Our fine is less than that, and we can't charge less than $50.
Okay. Great. Board members.
The second one, Elaine, I didn't hear you for the second one.
Sorry, I got a message. My internet is unstable, so I apologize for that. The second one was the street opening permits, and it codifies the way that the DPW is currently issuing street opening permits, and it puts it into a bylaw, makes it transparent and operational.
Thanks.
Irfan, you got anything? Any questions?
Yeah, I was just kind of going through, all 4 of them. So on the street opening, one thing that kind of jumped out at me was that there is criminal disposition for enforcement on this, or a non-criminal disposition as. I'm just wondering, shouldn't we just have civil penalties, or?
So every general bylaw has the criminal, the non-criminal element, and we always put in the non-criminal option because that's typically, if any action was going to be taken, that's where it would be.
Okay. And then the other thing I had was on the driveways, and I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. You're talking about a 10% slope, and there's a, it seems the goal is to prevent stormwater and other debris from entering onto the street. But any driveway with a slope is going to deposit water onto the street. So is that what we're intending, or is that some cleanup that needs to happen in that?
So I think if possible, if John Westerling could rejoin the meeting, he could explain that.
Okay.
There it is.
Good evening. Good evening through the chair. The primary reason behind the 10% maximum grade is for access, particularly for access of fire equipment. There are offshoots of benefits to that, in that it limits the amount of stormwater runoff down into the street. But our bylaws and our street opening permits and our driveway permits also regulate stormwater runoff into the street, that it can't happen. So it's in particular related to access.
Okay. So, I mean, okay, so we're not, I mean, there's a permit associated, or there's a review process associated with the driveways, right? So
that's correct.
If the driveway is if there's going to be some water coming off a driveway, which naturally there will be, we have a process in place for dealing with that.
Through the chair, that's absolutely correct. We go out and we inspect the site beforehand. If there are any existing swales, for example, at the edge of road, the new driveway has to continue those swales. And if there's any concerns for runoff from the property onto the street, they have to install either drainage or swales or other means to divert that stormwater runoff.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Brian?
All set.
Mary Jo? Amy?
I think my questions have been answered. I'm comfortable with these bylaws. Do we have a time? I know if it was a zoning article, we would have a public hearing. For these general bylaws, do we have a public hearing time public could come speak, different than at the beginning of public comment?
We're scheduling a hearing for February 23rd.
Okay, great.
Great. Elaine and Mr. Westerling, thank you guys very much. Mr. Kamalo, do you need anything from us on this? Like, I don't see any objections, so it looks like the wording is good and everyone seems to be behind it.
Yeah, thank you to the board for your feedback tonight. If you have any further questions, let us know. Again, as Elaine said, we are scheduling a public hearing where all of these bylaws will be reviewed on February 23rd.
Good, thank you. Moving on to the town manager report, Mr. Kamalo.
Through the chair, let me start off by giving a very quick update on the FY22 budget. I have a brief positive update on the town's overall budget situation tonight. You may recall two things from my budget presentation last Tuesday. One, I said we are really only beginning the public phase of this important process. And two, that as time passes, additionally important information may become available about possible federal COVID-19 relief that could improve the town situation, as well as information about likely levels of local aid from the Commonwealth and improved fidelity on important estimates like contributions from new growth. The very next day, after that last Tuesday, on Wednesday, January 27th, Governor Becker produced revised cherry sheet estimates that project a substantial increase in local aid for Hopkinton. The previous cherry sheet showed an expected increase in net local aid of 1%. The governor's revised estimate would raise local aid by 11%. Please recall that while local aid is an important secondary source of revenue property taxes will generate 82% of our expected general fund revenue. So while this dramatic increase in local aid is extremely helpful, it in itself does not address all the challenges the town faces. Because this change is so impactful, I have provided an updated sources and uses of funds summary showing the beneficial impact of the local aid increase. I did share that document via email with the board last Friday. There are 3 resulting favorable impacts I would like to call your attention to. Number 1, with respect to recommended draws from stabilization accounts. At proposed departmental funding levels, the additional local aid would reduce the recommended draws from both the General Stabilization Fund and the School Department Stabilization Fund by 51% under the 2.5% tax impact scenario. Under the 1.0 tax impact scenario, the additional local aid will likewise reduce the recommended school department stabilization draw by 51% and will reduce the recommended general fund stabilization draw by 43%. To speak specifically about how this reduced reliance on reserves would benefit the town's bond rating, the January 26 proposals would have dropped general fund reserves to 3.5% or 3.7% of the operating budget against a target of 5%. This revised estimate would keep general fund stabilization reserves higher at 3.9% or 4.1% of the operating budget under the 2 tax impact scenarios. This maintenance of higher reserve balances is the first positive impact of increased local aid. Number 2, with respect to the use of one-time funding for recurring needs, a concern that we have always expressed over the years, the 2 scenarios presented on January 26 called for using $1.9 million in one-time funding to support recurring needs under the 2.5% tax impact scenario, and $2 million in one-time funding to support recurring needs under the 1.0 tax impact scenario. In tonight's revision, those numbers drop by 40%, specifically to $1.1 million under the 2.5% scenario and $1.2 million under the 1.0% scenario. This dramatic reduction in reliance on one-time funding to support recurring needs is the second positive impact of increased local aid. Third, with respect to the multi-year outlook, a substantial challenge remains in FY23 and FY24 and even beyond, even after this good news. The revised local aid number would lower projected out-year deficits by about $400,000 each year, which helps but does not solve the structural problem that we discussed at length last Tuesday. I again point out that more changes will develop on revenue estimates. Some may be favorable, like the governor's commitment to increased local aid or information about new federal aid, but some may be adverse. Likewise, the governor's proposal is just that, a proposal. And in fact, it is one step in a multi-step process that also involves the legislature. There's House 1, House 2, House 3, and then the reconciliation, which is House 4. I will continue to keep the select board informed periodically and will continue to provide more frequent updates as material changes to revenue estimates develop. Again, I refer you to this spreadsheet on the uses and sources that I shared with you last Friday, and we'll take any questions.
Fred?
No questions. I just want to say that's some fantastic news that we're hearing. Wow. It's I think the revised numbers really really affect the overall budget. It's great to hear. Thank you.
Brian?
So if we went from the 2.5 to the 1, taking into account the governor's proposed increases in state aid. Going from that 2.5 to the 1, though, we'd still have the challenges on the cost side going to the 1, correct? That's
Yeah, correct. We have the challenges on the cost side as well as, remember, going down to 1 also will reduce levels of service.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, okay, this gives us, if it plays out, gives it some wiggle room. I'm not necessarily backing off what I said last time, which I thought 2.5 might be the way to go. But there is a little bit more wiggle room here, so we'll see how it plays out. But still early, so more to come. But, okay, thanks.
Thanks. Mary Jo?
Well, I think it's really good news, and let's just keep our fingers crossed that it holds as it goes through the budgetary system, and we just keep us updated. That's all. Thank you.
Amy?
Yeah, I think that's really good news. I'm happy to hear it. I thought the 1% budget seemed too lean, and I don't think, people really want to see their services reduced. So the less painless we can make it, that would be great. So happy to hear the news.
Yep. Great job. Thanks, Norman. And next.
And then, yes, on the Main Street Corridor project, quickly, again, the Mass DOT crews that are focusing on surveys are continuing to work in town as part of the construction of the project. We don't have any additional updates for now. However, I also wanted to go back to the comments that we had during the open forum. Namely, I do appreciate the questions that Lucia has been asking. Again, just to be clear, I did respond to her email, pointed out that the town concluded the design and planning phase and that we have now commenced construction. She followed up with 2 questions that came in, I think, last night at 11:50 p.m. And one of the questions that she sought further clarification on was in relation to the peer review process. Again, her email came last night at 11:50, and I had not responded to her. Again, my response is going to emphasize to her that the planning and design phase is complete. The town project went through both the Mass DOT as well as the federal review processes. We complied with the requirements for all those processes. And specifically with regard to her question on peer review, and this is why I didn't shoot off an email to you right away. I'm familiar with the Mass DOT process from many years ago, where they may have had peer reviewers, but I don't know for a fact if they have peer reviewers now. And I'm also not familiar with the federal process. I did not want to simply refer her to those institutions. I wanted to find the information for her and then give it to her. But otherwise, if she wants to get the answer right away, I will simply refer her to Mass DOT as well as Federal Highway. However, the town's planning and design phase is now complete. We have commenced construction. Most of the questions that she did raise were questions that were addressed over the life of the design and planning phase for this project.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Khumalo. Does that conclude your report to the board members? Does anyone want to say anything or nothing? Or from nothing? Amy?
Well, I was just going to say, so it sounds like you will be able to get the answers to the 2 questions in a few days, just it's not immediate, correct? Is that?
That was my goal, but since she needs an answer right away, I'm going to send an email to her, referring her to the institutions that do the reviews.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could make one comment, maybe as an add-on to Mr. Khumalo's from my vantage point. I've been involved in that project since we started talking about it 20 years ago, at least when I came to town and started talking about it 20 years ago. And the question and answer period did conclude on December 9th, 2019, when a large town meeting gathered at the middle school and overwhelmingly said, we're building this project as designed. The discussions about bike lanes, the discussions about the intersection, the discussions about undergrounding, all that had gone on for months, if not years in advance of that. So I'm not sure where the questions are coming from today, but I think it is important to reaffirm what Mr. Kamala just said. The question and answer period for the project is over. Town meeting said it's over. Town meeting is the ultimate peer review crowd when it comes to this project. And I think we just need to stick by that and move ahead. We're obviously in construction phase now, so nothing's going to change going forward.
Okay. Sounds good. Is that it, Mr. Kamalo?
That's it for me. I again want to take this opportunity to thank Don McAdams for his service to the community. We'll miss him.
Yep. Thank you. Duly noted there. Liaison reports.
I
don't have any.
Brian? Mary Jo?
Yeah, today I got a request from the Marathon Fund Committee. They said they tried to send it to the board's number at Town Hall, but for some reason it came back. So she sent it to me, and it's from Colleen Charleston, and it's for 10 high school graduating seniors.
Yeah, sorry, Mary Jo.
Yeah.
We did receive that application.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, yeah, we did, and I do have some feedback for Colleen.
Okay, so you will get back to her, because I am the liaison to that committee, so
Yes.
that's why she forwarded it to me.
Yes, and I'll call you right after the meeting.
Okay, good, fine. Then I
Amy?
want to say I missed the Don McAdams part, and his retirement is a loss to the town, and I want to wish him all the best in the years to come. That's all.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Well said. Amy?
Yep, I just have two events coming up. There's an upstander active bystander training this Saturday from 9 to 11:30 a.m. on Zoom, sponsored by the Freedom Team, and I think Youth and Family Services is helping with that too. And all board and committee members in town are welcome to attend, and it's free. And I think I emailed the registration link. Let's see. And then the Chinese American Association of Hopkinton had emailed me about a Lunar New Year virtual gala coming up on February 14th. And they are inviting the select board and other leaders to do a short video that they would present at their virtual gala. I'm happy to do that unless someone else is planning to do it, or everybody would like to do it their own.
Okay. I know that Mr. Herr he sent an email saying he was unable to, but wishes them the best. I am not able to attend that, but if you would like to go as a representative of the select board, I think that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'll do that. Thanks.
Is this virtual?
It's virtual, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you. I might want to say a few things, that's all.
Great.
And I don't have anything. The only thing I have is we have an event Thursday in the afternoon at some point down at that new seafood restaurant, seafood house that opened up, ribbon cutting, that Bill Morgan and his wife Ann have opened up. They've invited us to the ribbon cutting. I am going to do my darndest to get there, but I am preparing for our second vaccination on Friday. So I don't know how much time I'm going to have to sneak out of work for a little bit. So
What time is this on Thursday?
I think it's 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Yeah. So that's all that I have. So if my
well, we have future agenda items. I do have one thing that I want to do. One future agenda item, which is the economic development officer that we've heard from. We've heard from a few groups on. Would like to try and put that on the agenda and find out how we can move that forward, or at least have discussions on it.
Okay. Brian, anything? Mary Jo?
No,
Amy?
thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, now, Mr. Nasrullah.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the meeting.
A second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, start by saying Mr. Nasrullah.
Nasrullah, yes.
Mr. Herr.
Yes.
Lafreniere.
Lafreniere, yes.
And Ms. Ritterbush.
Ritterbush, yes.
Stone, yes. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
See ya. Bye-bye.